Hey guys, Tekking here with a bear. King Bear. Bear King. Okay, Bear King. Isn't that the name? That was the name of a villain from one of the first One Piece movies, wasn't it? Or maybe it was an OVA or something. No, I think it was one of the first One Piece movies, which I should really go back and watch those because the One Piece movies everybody knows about is like, Strong World, Film Z, Film Gold, and those are all great movies, but the really old school One Piece movies, like there's one that's focused all around Zoro fighting like a cursed sword or something. Like they're badass. I got to go back and watch those older ones. But anyway, yeah. Today's video is going to be all about Jewelry Bonney and Bartholomew Kuma and their mysterious relationship with each other. So, spoilers right out of the gate. I mean, I'll probably throw it up in the title. Also, I already made videos about both of these characters before, Kuma in my Warlord series and Bonney in my Supernova series. So if you want more elaboration on each of their individual abilities and, their history, well, we didn't really know they had a history together up until this last chapter. But if you want to know, like, their full stories, I would recommend you go watch those videos. Okay, so in the recent One Piece chapter, that'll be chapter 908, we got a bit of another bombshell. I've been using that word a lot recently, if you've noticed. This is a bombshell, but I'm not really being, overly dramatic when I use that word, Holy crap, a mysterious king figure with a giant straw hat, meaning that someone in the past had a straw hat, same as Luffy. That's kind of a bombshell. Shanks showing up to meet the Gorosei, that's definitely a bombshell. Shirahoshi's boobs, that is definitely a bombshell, and you knew that was coming from a mile away. But the thing is here, in the last chapter, we had Jewelry Bonney infiltrating Marijois, not just infiltrating the Holy Land, but in the specific area where the Tenryubito, the world nobles, live, which is even more of an exclusive area than the rest of Marijois. She infiltrates that area, and we also find out that she has some connections to a place called the Sorbet Kingdom, a place that we've never heard before, so this is new. And also, Kuma also has relations to that place, because we also find out that he was the former king of this Sorbet Kingdom. So there's a few ways you could actually look at this, and I didn't really handle it that well when I did the review, and it was an hour long, and I had a lot of other stuff to talk about there, so I hope I can rectify this here. I think I can get all my ducks in a row. You see these ducks? They're in a row, except that one. Get back in line. But aside from that, these ducks are in a row, and I think I got this all nailed down. Alright, so my first mistake that I made in the review was I thought the title Queen Dowager, I thought Dowager was her last name, so already, okay. No. What Queen Dowager means is that you are the mother of the king, or rather, you are the widow of a king. See, think of it like if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, this will make a lot more sense, but if you haven't, allow me to explain the situation. You have a king, and you have a queen, okay. Then, let's say you have a child, who is the prince. Alright, you with me so far? Okay, let's say the king dies. Alright, who rules? Well, the prince does, because he becomes the new king now that his father has died. But let's say the prince is too young to be a proper king, let's say, or too young to marry. The prince is like, 8 years old or something like that. So, yeah, the prince technically is the king now that his father is dead, but he's not old enough to marry to have a proper queen of his own, so the queen from the former king becomes the Queen Dowager, the queen mother, so to speak. Alright, and then until he becomes of age, and then he marries his own queen, and then they just take off from there. Okay, so that's the way to look at it. However, that alone opens up some possibilities here. What is Jewelry Bonney's relationship to Bartholomew Kuma? Because in the chapter, I automatically assumed, as I'm sure a lot of people did, Bonney, or rather Connie, which is the alias that she's using, although we don't even know if that's an alias, because people recognized her as the Queen Dowager of the Sorbet Kingdom. This wasn't something she could just create out of nowhere. She managed to get into Reverie to begin with, so the Sorbet Kingdom definitely exists, and either she looks remarkably like the queen of that place, or she is the actual queen of that place, in which case I would say Connie would be her real name and Bonney is the alias. But anyway, that's not really so important right now. Rather, she managed to get into Reverie there, so her credentials are definitely legitimate. So what is her relationship with Kuma? You would think that, well, Kuma was shown in that same chapter to be the king of the kingdom, so I thought, oh, well, they were married at one point. You know, Kuma was the king, married Bonney or Connie, and then they were the rulers of the Sorbet kingdom, and then Kuma got tied to the Revolutionary Army, and then eventually got found out by the world government, got captured, and now it's up to Connie/Bonney to go and rescue her husband. That was the way I took it back when I thought Dowager was a freaking surname. Okay, there's two ways you can look at this. The way that I looked at it initially, where Bonney and Kuma were married, king and queen, or another way is that Bonney could in fact be Kuma's mother. Okay, so to properly illustrate this and to make it a little bit less confusing, I made some diagrams to take a look at. Alright, so here is the Sorbet Kingdom. Sorbet is just a type of ice cream, which, oh, by the way, I originally assumed because Jewelry Bonney loves to shove her, you know, face full of food. You always see her, you know, shoving a bunch of pizza and stuff into her face, and she never seems to get fat. You know, and also because her ship was kind of laid out, I thought it was a cake at first. You know, I thought she had ties to Big Mom. Also, the fact she had pink hair and her lipstick. A lot of similarities to Charlotte Linland. So I was like, oh, maybe Jewelry Bonney is, you know, maybe she's related to Big Mom. Maybe she's one of her daughters that went off into the world or something like that. And then, oh, by the way, to make it even freakier, when she's older, she kind of does resemble Mother Caramel a little bit. But yeah, there might be, I don't know. But now this makes more sense because she was the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom, so her ship might not actually be a cake, it might be a sorbet. So there you go. But right, here we have the Sorbet Kingdom, and we know that Bonney was the queen at one point. Even if she was the queen, if she's the Queen Dowager now, that still means she was the queen at one point. And by the way, in case you're curious, being the Queen Dowager as opposed to the Queen Regent means that, like, the Queen Regent is someone that actually rules over the actual country, like, actively. The Queen Dowager, the way I've been reading this, doesn't really have any specific duties, more just kind of an honorary title, but in case we're talking about, like Queen Victoria, back during the Victorian era in England, you know, she was, like, the acting queen. She made laws and shit, so that she was a Queen Regent. Okay, so, yeah, but Bonney was definitely the queen at one point, so option one, she married Kuma, or rather, Kuma married her, and they had a child together who would have been the prince or the princess. In this example, let's just make them the prince. So they had a son, and then what happened is that Kuma got tied up in the Revolutionary Army. He eventually got captured by the world government, so he got taken out of the picture. Okay, so Kuma is no longer in the Sorbet Kingdom. Who is the new king? Well, it's going to be their child. However, let's say that their child was just too young to marry, so then that's where the title comes from. That's one possible way that Bonney could be married to Kuma, but also could be the Queen Dowager. Okay, she's Queen Dowager to the current king, who is just too young. So that's one way you could look at it. The other option is Bonney actually married someone else, an unknown king of the Sorbet Kingdom. And how long ago this could have been, anybody's guess. Because of the nature of Bonney's devil fruit power, let's just call it the age fruit. We don't know its actual name, so I'm just using that as a placeholder. But because she can change her age at will, and we don't know when she actually actively ate the fruit, we don't know how old she really is. So this could be her true form, this wrinkled old lady, or it could be a child. The way that it's been setting up in the last chapter, and she has a lot more, like, history about her, I want to say that this is definitely her real form, but who knows yet? Who knows what Oda's gonna, you know, throw at us? He might throw us a curveball at the last inning of the game. I don't know. But for right now, I'm gonna say that she's definitely a lot older than she looks, and then we have her default form that we see her mostly as, you know, the hot, you know, big busted bombshell, and that form is when she was 24 years old, as stated by Oda. Right. So, yeah, let's say at some point in the past, she married the king of the Sorbet Kingdom, and then they had a child, and that child was, in fact, Kuma. Then, the king that she was married to died, let's just say of natural causes. He was old, he passed away, and then Kuma became the next king. So in that situation, she could also be considered the Queen Dowager, but instead of being married to Kuma, she is actually the mother of Kuma. Do you see the way that this could go about? So, now, there's something I need to correct, and I really should have maybe addressed this at the beginning of the video, not halfway through it or wherever we're at right now, because after the chapter chapter was released, you understand that there's a bunch of different translations, right? I usually read the manga stream or the Kiss manga version, but there's other versions like the Jamie's Box version. There's a bunch of different translations. Some are better than others. Some take into account the way that certain characters like have speech patterns different from other ones. Some of them just directly translate them out. Basically, this panel right here, we see Jewelry Bonney, after she turned back into her default form in her 20s, she was crying, and she's like thinking to herself, you know, unforgivable. This is so unforgivable what they did to Kuma. And then you have this panel where she's crying as opposed to Kuma's, you know, bloodied face as Roswald is pounding his head in with a hammer. He's like, check it out, he's the ultimate slave. And then you see speech bubble off to the side that states, referring to father. Right? So people thought that that was Bonney talking about Kuma as if Kuma was Bonnie's father, right? So, yeah, that's the problem we had there. That's actually not Bonney that's talking. That's Charlos off to the side. He's off screen and he's talking. And of course, it's just the speech pattern. It's not how Bonney talks. And she can't talk because she's in hiding. So whenever we see those things, those are her thought bubbles. Or at the very most, you could say like they're her whispering to herself. But I'm pretty sure these are thought bubbles, not her actually talking. So yeah, that's Charlos off to the side stating, you know, that's nice, father, you have a great slave, but I'm bleeding out here, I'm dying, could you please help? That's Charlos, not Bonney. So I can't tell you how many people sent me messages over, you know, various social media, like, did you miss this? Or I'm confused, you know, you said that, you know, that they could have been married, but in this panel they say that, you know, Kuma is Bonnie's father, you know, what do you mean about that? Or that, you know, Bonney could be related in like as a parent to Kuma. I'm confused. I'm like, look, yeah, it's just maybe an issue with the translation you were reading, but no, that was Charlos talking, not Bonney. We don't know the exact relationship. But it has to be one of the two. It has to be either Bonney was married to Kuma or she is the mother of Kuma. Now, the way I look at this is a little different from the way when I was reviewing it, because I have this new information now. I think that Bonney is in fact Kuma's mother. Just because if we're going to go around with the logic that she's really an older woman, and maybe she was an older woman, you know, and then in her like 80s or 90s, she found the age fruit, ate it, you know, regained her youth, and then decided, you know, I'm going to go and rescue my son or something like that. That would be really poetic. That would make a lot of sense. And also, whenever Bonney is going around, she's usually crying and shouting, you know, I'll never forgive them or something like that. You know, you could have it both ways. You could say, I'll never forgive them for stealing away my husband, or I'll never forgive them for stealing away my son. You could have it both ways, but I think the thing that would just be a lot more emotionally impactful is, I'll never forgive you for stealing away my son. So this is a mother's journey to bring back her child. That would be something I think would make a lot more sense. And also, look at the age gap. Now, I already mentioned this with Bonney. You can't really tell how old she is. Now, Kuma is stated to have been 48 years old. However, you also have to take into account, because of the modifications from Vegapunk and that he was changed into a PX, that might have halted the aging process. Right, but the way that Kuma was modified, that couldn't have been very long ago. In fact, we see Kuma as a member of the Revolutionary Army back during the flashback between, you know, Ace and Luffy and Sabo, and that was, oh, how long ago was that? That was like 12 years ago or something like that, right? The flashback between Sabo, Luffy, and Ace back in, the Goa Kingdom. We see Kuma as a revolutionary there, and he's still a very hulking figure. We don't really get to see his face too much, though. Yeah, even if that's the case, I don't see Vegapunk's modifications on Kuma happening much more than 10 years ago. So let's just say, for all intents and purposes, yeah, he's around in his mid-late 40s right now. Bonney could be in her 70s, 80s, 90s. Hell, this is One Piece, where Dr. Kureha is upwards of 140 years old. So here, she could be easily like 120. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous in our world, because I think the oldest human being that ever lived was around 120 years old. She was a French woman. Look up her story. It's really interesting. She was a little girl, and she met Vincent van Gogh. So that was really cool. Just little stories you read about this. Human condition is amazing. But yeah, that might be weird, 120-year-old something in our world, but in the One Piece world, that's really nothing that special. So very well, she could be extremely old in her actual form, and then she had the age fruit that changed her back into a young girl, that she can actually journey the seas and try to get back her son. And she could see this as like a redemptioning moment, where it's like, if her son was, stolen away from her at a young age or something like that. Well, not as a young age, like whatever age that Kuma was when he joined the Revolutionary Army, he probably left the Sorbet Kingdom. So to kind of put this in a timeline, the timeline where Bonney is Kuma's mother, Bonney marries the king, they have Kuma. King dies, maybe natural causes. Kuma is too young to really assume the throne in the proper sense, or marrying. Maybe he runs off in his early years, joins up with the Revolutionary Army, is a member of the Revolutionary Army for a long time. He was a commander of the Revolutionary Army, so he could have been a part of the Revolutionary Army for most of his life. And it wasn't until rather recently where he was captured by the world government, made into the PX and the warlord. That could have only happened maybe in the last 10 years or so. It's totally possible there. So yeah, the one also strange thing about Kuma is that his epithet when he was a pirate was the Tyrant Kuma. So I don't exactly know. And by the way, when they say he was a pirate, I don't know if they're referring to like when he was a revolutionary, or was he a pirate, then a revolutionary, then part of the world government? Or are they just referring to him as a pirate when he was a member of the revolutionary? I don't exactly know how that goes, because there's a lot of in his timeline we just don't know about. But he was referred to as the Tyrant, and in the recent chapters, Sabo referred to him as like a gentle soul. So I don't know, maybe that was the maybe that was the world government just slapping the title of Tyrant on him, even though it didn't fit, just to make him seem more like a monster. It's like, yeah, the monster, the Tyrant, Bartholomew Kuma. We brought him into our ranks, and we turned him into our little unthinking puppet, and now we're selling him out to the highest bidder to be used as a personal transport slave. We are the world government. We are all powerful. Could have been something like that, because Kuma, even during his days as a revolutionary, I don't see him really doing that many horrible things the way that Sabo talked about him, Plus, you see this image of him smiling, and it's just adorable. But yeah, so that was the situation. Kuma goes off to be a revolutionary before he can really enact as a proper king, and Bonney is just too old to go after him. But then in her later years, she finds the devil fruit, and then she decides to go and chase after her son. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely say I flipped on this. I definitely think the relationship between them is mother and son. Now, where's this going to go? Because Kuma's already been modified by Vegapunk into the PX0. Bonney, if she didn't know about that previously, she definitely knows about it now, seeing the way that Kuma's acting and stuff. Probably could kind of tip her off that he's no longer a human, or rather, he doesn't really have the mind that he used to have. Plus, I mean, if he's a machine, the sparks shooting out of him and stuff, probably a dead giveaway. Because Roswell beat him up pretty bad. Once again, I find this weird. It's like you made the ultimate killing machine, and you're going to just rent him out as a horse and buggy. Why don't they just use horses? I know they're the celestial dragons, and they have to enact their power and everything amongst slaves of the world, but, it just seems like I'm going to use a human as a, personal transport. That just seemed like they would die. They would, give out a lot sooner than a horse would. But then again, they're the celestial dragons, so whenever one slave gives out, he'd be like, okay, bring up the next one, hup, hup, and then, like a mile later, they pass out. I'm like, all right, next one. They could just keep doing that, because they have the power. So, yeah. But how's Bonney gonna do this? Because she's infiltrated the residential area of the Celestial Dragons. That place is littered with security all over the place, trying to make sure that, people don't get in there. So, and Bonney in a fight, she's not weak. I mean, we saw what she could do with the Marines. She turned them into a bunch of little kids and old men during the Sabaody arc. So she definitely has the ability to fight. But when it comes to, like, straight-up brawling, I don't think she would be that adept at that. She might be kind of skilled in the same way Chopper is, because whenever Chopper gets into a fight, he can always, like when he was fighting Kumadori, he could just turn back into his brain point form, and that, like shortens his height considerably. So whenever Kumadori was about to stab him, he's like, nope, and then shrinks back into a tiny little Tanuki deer, and then the attack missed him. So Bonney could maybe do that in a fight where she's fighting in her 20-something form when she's 24, and then goes to kick, and then the attack comes at her, and then she could turn into a little girl, and that could dodge the attack. So maybe something like that in a fight. But in terms of, like, if she's fighting against someone really physically strong, and we don't know the conditions for her to trigger her devil fruit, exactly how that works. Does she have to be in a certain perimeter? I would assume she would have to be. The way that it seems, it's like physical contact is not a thing, because she was, like, standing on top of a rooftop and able to turn all of those Marines into kids. Maybe it's something she has to do as a prerequisite. I don't know. But in terms of a fight, I don't know. And getting Kuma out of there, I mean, maybe she's going to meet up with the revolutionaries, I think would be the best bet for her. Because the revolutionaries are also in that same area, and they want to get Kuma back as well. So they might know who Bonney or Connie is, and they might, oh, okay, well, we'll help you out there. And she might team up with them. And it's kind of weird that why is Bonney a pirate rather than a member of the Revolutionary Army? Maybe Bonney might hold some contempt for them because that was the whole reason that maybe Kuma left the Sorbet Kingdom, or the whole reason that Kuma got captured by the world government was because he was tied with the revolutionaries. Like, if he would have just stayed a king, then they wouldn't have had this problem. So maybe Bonney has some contempt for the revolutionaries and for dragging her boy away, even though they weren't the ones that actually did these horrible things to him. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense why Bonney or Connie's always going around like, I can't forgive them. She has a lot of people she can't forgive, guys. Girl holds a grudge, right? But yeah, if at the end of this arc they could at least get Kuma back, that would be you know what, not just a decisive blow for like the Tenryubito and everything, and like obviously the world government lost one of their fighting forces, but look at the state the warlords are in. We are only down to 5 warlords right now. We got Hancock, we got Mihawk, we got Buggy, which, if we're being straight up right now, Buggy is not a great threat. And then we have Kuma and Weevil, 5, right? So if they lose Kuma, if he gets brought back to the revolutionaries, even if they can't change him back to the way he was, they still lost a fighting force, right? So then we're only down to 4 of the 7 warlords, only 3 that are really good in combat, and only 2 that are really strong enough to be, exceedingly useful in combat. I love you, Hancock, but if it's Hancock versus, like, a Yonko or somebody, Snake Woman's going down, there's really not a comparison there. I don't think Kaido will be wooed by her, appearance, really. If we're talking about straight-up brawling between some really strong characters in One Piece, I'd take Mihawk or Weevil over Hancock any day, you know what I mean? So, the condition of the Warlords is not looking that pretty if they take away the PX-0, if they take away Kuma. So I'm hoping that happens, just to kind of give another blow to the Tenryubito. Hey, that would be one thing. Hey, we're going to announce war with you guys. Sabo pops out like, war with the Celestial Dragons. We're also taking your super weapon back with us. Like, damn it, they really got us good. They broke into Reverie and they stole my personal transport. Damn it. So that could be something there. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's the situation with Bonney and Kuma. Leave your comments below on what you think about all this, where this is going, and how excited you are to see Bonney back in the story again, actually doing something relevant, because that'll be pretty cool. And also, how did she escape Akainu? That's something that I've always also wanted to know. She was captured by Blackbeard, and then Akainu showed up, and it looked like Akainu was going to drag her in. And, oh, by the way, it's very likely that, they might know her as the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom when she's in that wrinkly, hey there, little kids, do you want some cookies? Looking like an old lady. But when she's young, she could be just the pirate jewelry Bonney, and no one could even maybe have a connection to the Sorbet Kingdom. So when Akainu showed up and captured her, he might not have known, or maybe she used her position as leverage to get away. I have no idea. It's just really confusing with Bonney. Oda, you could help us out with this. Just give me Bonney's age. That would at least give me something to work with here. Her actual age. How many years she's been alive on this earth, okay? Can you at least give us that much, and I think we'll be sitting pretty. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking101 signing out. Bye, everybody.